We will just wait for a couple more minutes, guys, and then we'll start off. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. As people are still connecting, I think we can start off. Are there any questions? I know it's been less than 12 hours, but yeah, if there are any questions, let's talk about them on strategy. We basically talked about, just to summarize, in case those of you who are not able to relate to the amount of frameworks that we've got. We've talked about the balanced scorecard. We've talked about the SMART objectives and its relevance, and what is the relevance of the balanced scorecard is also what we've kind of established. Macro scan is what you should definitely do before your strategic planning, and that is nothing else but our good old pestle. We scan the market, and then from the scan, we develop our strategy. We then talked about another form of strategic framework, and that is the Porter's Five Forces, which talks about the different key stakeholders and how are we seeing them with regards to either partnering with them or with regards to being aware of them proactively rather than reactively. Benchmarking is a very important initiative in strategic management, and those companies or those firms that benchmark are on the path of growth, and that's what we spoke about as well. While you have Porter's Five Forces, you have Porter's generic strategy also, and this generic strategy is either cost focused differentiation, or it is with regard, cost differentiation, or it is focused towards a particular segment of the market. So that's basically what we've got to talk about with regards to our strategic business management. Yeah. Today we move on with our discussion, and we talk about a few more frameworks today than we would do otherwise. Okay. If there are any AI-related questions, clarifications, we will reserve the last 10 minutes of class to talk about it in case you have any. And that is, what we basically want to talk about. Nisha, for prioritizing resources, just hold on to that. We'll talk about it a little bit today, which is the value chain analysis, and the next class, which is the VRIO framework. And both these are very strongly recommended by the operations teams to look at process reengineering, to look at prioritization of resources, especially from the organization and the operations point of view, which is a big support function to ensure success of the organization. So yes, those are also going to be talked about between today and the next class. Okay. So let's get started with today's session. Today, I want to bring up, and again, same rules, guys, applies again today. Cameras on and mics off, unless you want to make a contribution. Engagement levels, I'm very happy with what we've been seeing yesterday, which were quite high compared to the previous class. And I wanted even higher, or probably far more engaging on the lines of what we were discussing yesterday. So great job done, guys. Keep those alignment, knowledge, inquisitiveness, discussion points forward. They only help learning within the class. Otherwise, trust me, it's quite a boring session to talk to a wall for 2.5 hours. Just do your talking and leave. And that's something that I don't like. So kindly contribute. It's again, one more thing, it's not a webinar, it's a class. So we're here committed, and therefore let's make the most out of our commitment. And two rules: mics off unless you want to make a point, and do make a point, and definitely, cameras on. So let's move on to talking about SWOT analysis and what do we mean by SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Has anybody used SWOT before? Anybody used SWOT before? Nobody's used it? Okay, that's surprising, because in our daily lives, we use SWOT a lot. Yeah, for individuals only. When you say individuals only, I assume at the personal level. For on ourselves, we use. When you say on yourselves, is it personal or at the corporate level? But absolutely right, people. On the individual level, we definitely use quite a lot of that when we got to weigh pros and cons. And those pros and cons weights have been done far more frequently in the last year and a half than we used to do in the past. Some of us, including myself, the best thing that we do is, unless I don't do a comparison, I usually, it helps me take one of some strategic or critical decisions to weigh pros and cons. You don't have to ask anybody in that case. You can only ask for facts and assumptions. But when you put those down, the answer becomes quite obvious, and it is a thought through answer, which we definitely do at the personal level. At the corporate level, you must do a SWOT either for your business unit or for your organization. And this SWOT, everybody feels that it's wow, it's simple, but trust me, it's the very effective and it's the most abused tool that is used by organizations. 8 out of 10 organizations do it wrongly, and therefore, those who do it rightly are only going to do it rightly from a certain point of view. They're not looking at the entire picture of how SWOT is done. So we all think that we know it at the workplace, but let's be mindful about how to prepare and how to develop an effective SWOT in the organization. So strengths and weaknesses are internal within the organization, and opportunities and threats are external, which is outside the organization. So opportunities and threats are external to the organization or to the unit or to the department that you're doing it for, whereas strengths and weaknesses are internal within the department, within the organization that you're doing it for. So that's rule number one. Rule number two, uh, do not make it, what should I say? Let there be no overlaps. Classically, what we do is we say we have a dependable, professional team of people, and therefore we say combined years of experience, blah, blah, blue, blue. And then the next slide talks about weaknesses, and we say we require our staff to be certified professionally, or or make some training or do some training. Which is actually contradicting, because when I see something like that, my question is, if you have such qualified people, why do you want them to be trained? So one of the two holds true, not both of them. So try doing these kinds of things, and question marks if there is duplication of the statement, either in a strength, weakness, opportunities, or threats, or even a triplication of the statement, because it appears in all the three or two or more than two areas as well. So that should not happen. So first is strengths and weaknesses are internal, opportunities and threats are external. Make sure that you talk about an area in one of the four quadrants and not in all of them. And the third and the most important one is, what is the output or the strategy out of this, which is strengths. You got to leverage the strengths, and that's your strategy. Weakness, you have to overcome the weakness, and that is your strategy. Opportunities, you got to exploit the opportunities, and that is your strategy. And lastly, you got to combat threats, and that is your strategy. So these are the four outcomes or strategic outcomes of a tool as simple and powerful as a SWOT. So strengths, leverage it; opportunities, exploit it; weaknesses, overcome them; and last and final, when you have threats, you combat the threats. So four strong areas of how you're going to look and push your SWOT forward. Okay. So that's what we have. We say strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Uh, Opportunities and threats are external, so it might have some kind of similarities, uh, especially from the pestle. And specifically in the pestle, you can pick cues from socio-cultural, technological, or even economic environment as an opportunity for you to thrive in that particular setup. The threats can also come from there, especially from political, and all of them actually, but political, legal, most of them, and that is what you need to be mindful of here. So on the external side, we do see some linkages between the organization and the macro scan that you would have conducted. In fact, let those linkages be, so that we know that you are mindful of those opportunities that exist in the marketplace. So macro environment is what we saw. Micro environment is basically what we're going to be working on through a SWOT. Some people do a separate micro environment analysis of your stakeholders, like employees, like competitors, like your public, your government, your any other, your suppliers, and all these are also analyzed as a micro part of it. But personally, if you've done a pestle and a Porter's five forces, I can skip a micro and I can straight away come to a SWOT instead, rather than spending a similar kind of effort and not yielding results by doing a micro as well. Between the choice between SWOT versus micro, prefer to do a SWOT, far more insightful. And I definitely do and recommend a SWOT more than I would recommend a micro. But in case your organization would like to, you can please go ahead and analyze them at the micro level as well. So as we said, strengths and weaknesses are internal, opportunities and threats are external. We will do an exercise of SWOT in a minute, but before we get into that, I want to talk about another powerful tool that we use for strategy, and that is called as the Bcg Matrix. Very, very popular, extremely popular, widely used in the strategic field. This was developed by Boston Consulting Group, and because they developed it, it provides a very clear-cut direction of what you want to achieve, and what are the resources that you want to put forward, and how would growth be coming through, in terms of what you're going to be doing. So this is a very strong tool that you would use to develop growth strategies. Two variables is what it considers, which is the growth of the industry, and not your market share in isolation, but your market share compared to competition. So therefore, it's a relative market share and a growth rate. And these two variables are taken together to put together a BCG matrix or a Boston Consulting Group matrix, to be able to determine the resources that you want to put in place. Uh, why does it help? Firstly, you're focused is what I would add to it first and foremost. If you're focused, your resource allocation is fantastic. It helps you prioritize and build your resources accordingly. It helps you understand what is the current state of the organization uniformly across departments. Number one. Number two, how easy or difficult is it going to be to go to the next level or be at the same level itself, with regards to what you are doing and what strategy you got to do to be able to reach where you would like to reach, and then you plan for how do you intend to reach there. So that's basically how it looks like. It's divided into 4 quadrants. On the y-axis, you have the market growth rate, and on the x-axis, you have the so you have the market share here, and you have the market growth rate here. Those are the two things that you have. Now let's try and read them. So what is a star? A star is when your market share is high and your market growth is also high. That's where you become a star. And this star is an ideal position. You aspire to be there, or you are there, whatever be the case in point. But this is where you would like to be. On the other extreme is when you are a dog. Recently, what people call it as is that it is a what should I say? It is a pet, and that's the word that people use nowadays compared to what it used to be used in the past. So, dog or pet means the same thing when it's the other opposite of the star framework. And here you have low on the market share and you're low on the industry growth also. Now, when are you a question mark? You are a question mark. You are a question mark when you don't have a market share. Now, if your organization is not able to grab the opportunities in the market because the market is growing, you're said to be a question mark. So, for example, Toyota, in the AV EV market, where the market is suddenly picked up in terms of growth, AV EV market, Toyota does not demonstrate a high market share, this year or probably even next year. It's going to be a question mark. What are the barriers for it to exploit? What needs to be exploited from a growing market? And that's what the strategy will be based on. The interesting side of the story is a cash cow. And who is a cash cow? A cash cow is a state in which the organization is the other opposite of a question mark, which is it has low growth rate and it has high market share. So in the real estate market, if you were Lodha Group, for example, the market is not growing very high as it used to be in the past. So it's a low growth in the market. And the market share of Lodha typically is in the top 2 or 3. Let's assume that it's in the top 3 real estate firms in India. It is a cash cow, because now what you're going to ask is what should be done, because you're either a first mover or you're having that advantage. And therefore, what should you be doing to be able to take advantage of pushing in money or pumping in money to exploit your market share or to grow your market share as to grow the industry. And therefore, Lodha might say, I will come up with a scheme called as rent to buy. You can rent the apartment for a year, and if you decide to buy it after that, all your installments will go towards your purchase. If you don't, it's okay, you can continue to rent. And that can revive the market in terms of what it needs. So it can come up with better projects, better AMIs, better loan facilities, whatever case and point. This is just an example. And that would help the organization to push it forward with regards to bringing about it can also, come up with an app for property buyers and say that's what somebody has done here. It can come up with an app for a property buyer, and what it can say is the moment you decide to buy a property, you click on the app, everything about the property gets notified to you. When was it done? When was it not done? Not done in the sense did the project stop? Did the project continue? What and how is it progressing? Who's the builder? What is the rating of the builder? Is it completed? Everything. And this everything is more focused on historical data as opposed to predictive data, because you need to have a solid foundation historically before you take or make that decision. So you could do something of that side, and the market could again get revived. In terms of what you would like to bring into the market, and that's a cash cow. So relative market share and relative growth rate determines whether you as an organization have high, low market share and therefore high, low growth rate. Yeah. Any questions on this, people? Good, great. So, how do you calculate your relative market share? You will take your unit sales in connection with the total unit sales in the market and come up with a market share, not only yours, but in relation to the market. And that you need to be careful about when you put in your x-axis. Y-axis is obviously growth rate, not CAGR, not compounded, but just annual growth year on year. And that's what is straightforward. And that's what you could calculate to come up with what you need to. It is also useful when you say self-analysis organization, and yes, for an investor too, to be able to know where does the company stand currently and to determine from the investor's perspective, does it have a potential of going into the next quadrant to ultimately become a star or not? Yeah. Sometimes some investors want to invest in sick units, so they look for pets, so they look for dogs to provide the stimulus to so that it can come back into either a question mark or a, what should I say, a cash cow stage. Yeah. Yes. So at the organization level and also at the investor level, but widely used at the organization level during the strategic planning exercise as part of the growth strategy. In the past, it used to be done once in 2 to 3 years because growth strategy would take that much of time to implement. With the time horizon getting narrowed and shorter, it is now looked at or done on an annual basis. No, it is applicable, Gohan, for everybody. It is not necessarily only for FMCG or durables or services or B2C firms or B2B firms. It is applicable for all kinds of organizations, consumer driven, industrial driven, and also B2B and B2C, every and all. Okay. So we've talked about which quadrant you are in because then the strategy comes through. For the star quadrant, your strategy should be sustenance to maintain the returns. And that is a difficult one because maintenance is usually the most difficult ones. Cash cow, your strategy is milk the excess capital that you have to bring back or revive growth in the industry. Question mark, invest a lot of money, time, resources, understand your customer needs. And that becomes an important strategy there to prevent you from becoming either a dog or exiting from the industry and you want to get into the star quadrant. If you're into a pet or a dog quadrant, your strategy is typically do not continue to invest unless you're a Kellogg's and you have the patience to invest for 10 years to change the breakfast eating habits of India. Don't do that. If you can, great. If you can't, typically most organizations don't want to exhaust your resources, waste also, or drain them out. So either invest further if you have the capacity, or divest, or get out, or remove out from the industry. Yeah, and that's what we call you call it as a pet or a dog product, or rather a quadrant. Okay, very useful as a business growth strategy, especially as I said, done annually with the dynamic changes in the industry or market around us, widely used. Yeah. So that's the strategy. Should milk these cash cows, should invest or sustain. These are basically should invest or discard the question, and here either liquidate or move out of your um, of your quadrant to be able to use the resources wisely elsewhere. What is the importance of this? It is, again, one more time, it is important to stay focused, to prioritize and allocate resources accordingly, strong input in strategic decision making, a thorough understanding of what your business is, and therefore resource in terms of liquidity is wisely spent with a rationale of why you are doing what you are doing. Okay. Any questions on this, people? On the BCG matrix? Wonderful. Now, I have a question. We'll do a SWOT exercise right now. But before we do a SWOT exercise, what happens to the weaknesses you think? You determine strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And what actually happens to the weaknesses? What should be the action plan for the weaknesses? Of course, the strategy is overcome them, but how to overcome them? Anyone? Any thoughts there? Priyansh, how will you do a SWOT on weakness? Because weaknesses itself is the outcome of a SWOT. Your strategy is to overcome the weakness. So how can you do it? Can somebody speak about it, please, rather than chat?
Some weaknesses can be converted into strengths if, analyzed correctly.
Okay. Some or all, what would you advise?
I would still say some, not
Okay.
all.
Okay, then let me play the devil's advocate role here. If you say some, why are you listing all weaknesses then? Because knowingly, when you list them, you'll not be able to work on all of them.
Yeah, so listing them actually lets us know that, which weaknesses we can convert to strengths and which we can remove altogether from our routine.
So basically, all of them have to be actioned from that sense. Yeah, if
Yes.
you will take stock of it, Jaya, in that sense. If you can't make it a strength, you will wipe it out of the weakness zone. And if you can, obviously, you will.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. So all have to be actioned, yeah, not some.
Yeah, all have to be actioned. Some can be converted to strengths. Yeah.
Yes, that assessment you will take. Brilliant, wonderful. And how do you advise that we action this within the organization? Anyone else? So suppose I've got my weaknesses from all the departments for my strategic planning, and I am the central contact point of strategy. How do you suggest that I action it? Some people are so smart. They put the same weakness 2 years ago in the strategic plan and it goes through this year. Some people say, all right, it's only a weakness. Let's see it some other time. How do I change this mindset? What do I do with it? We all are saying we have to work on it. How do I ensure that a Jaya, for only an example, that Jaya has worked on the weaknesses identified in a plan versus what Deepak has done is also identified his weakness versus what Shashank has done and versus what Binita has done? How do I make sure that all these departments of mine have actually worked on their weaknesses? Yes, they all are brilliant because they just finished a course in strategy. So they know about the importance of the weakness. In fact, they can talk till the cows come home about the importance. But how do I make sure that they action what they say? Anyone? How is the question, Kajal, here now? And that is what we want to find out. What process would you suggest that I adopt to make sure that the weaknesses identified by these 3 or 4 departments of mine are actually being worked out or worked upon?
Maybe a root cause analysis here would help, like why it is a weakness.
Good. Good. Let me nudge you a bit more there, Gohan. How do I do that root cause analysis?
So we have found out what's the weakness is, right? So we have to dig deeper why it is, maybe a why or a what if analysis.
Okay, brilliant. And I do a root cause, and thankfully I do. I'm glad you mentioned the what if also, and do it and find out your what if and your root cause and even your scenario planners help you determine the pinpoint, the root cause, or you actually do a pinpoint analysis. And then what? Anyone?
Then then we have to make the corrective actions and also in future preventive.
Thank you. Who has to make that, me or these departments of mine?
So if it is at the functional level, then the functional team should take care. But if it is something to do with the strategy, then as a company.
So which means I have to do it, or these departmental heads of mine have to do it? Who has to do it?
It should start with the department first.
Okay. Okay. Thank God you said that and didn't say that I have to do it, because most of in the organization it said because you look after strategy, it's your responsibility and not mine. And that is the biggest mistake it will be doing. It did, as rightly said and discussed here, the departments will have to action it because it's their weaknesses. Yeah, the strategy unit is only going to facilitate the discussions or facilitate the plan so that it actually gets done. If there are bottlenecks, those bottlenecks have to be overcome. One of the times, one of the recruitment process was a problem, and business was not talking to HR, and another bigger problem. Operations was a problem, and business was not talking to operations or not talking to IT for that matter. And they said, we sent an email, nobody replied. IT says, I've sent it back, nobody looks at it. And in that process, we lost about 4 to 5 months in a year. I had to literally call for a meeting, call these people, sit together, discuss the pointers and grievances each one had, and had 3 rounds of meetings. And then we came up with a solution and I closed the weakness. So that is the job of a facilitator. Seemed quite silly to call 2 departments into a meeting room. And I first said, that's not my job. But if that's not what my job is, then the organization will continue to suffer. Okay, so yes, you got to call them, meet them. And now what I would suggest is form a cross-collaborative team with all my department heads into that committee, chaired by a senior authority, either it's the CEO or the deputy CEO or the CFO, wherever strategy head is, and have a monthly meeting. Take all the weaknesses for the departments and say, this is a thread across departments. Conduct your root cause analysis, get your departments to agree on how you want to work, and then track them every month with the end date being end of the year. And let people who are not achieving them come into the meeting, give their viewpoint as to why it's not achieving, and then jointly come up with an action plan as to how to make it achieve rather than a fault finding mission. So this way, you ensure. So your first point in the SWOT for next year's planning cycle would be, these were our weaknesses that we identified, and that is how we've achieved them in the last 1 year. And then we'll get better and better. You can have new weaknesses. And interestingly, if you really done it well, you can with conviction go into a meeting room and say no weaknesses this year. And that is accepted. Otherwise, normally we hear and see an individual, a firm without any weaknesses is just bullshit. And that's what we say. And that thought can be changed with this plan or with this action. Yeah. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Clear about this, guys? Any questions per se? Okay, great. So what I'm going to now do is put you into a breakout room. And when I put you into a breakout room, I want us to do a SWOT: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. In your strength, not more than 2 points. In your weakness, not more than 2 points. Not more than 2 points for opportunities and threats. And that is what I want you to establish. Please make sure that it's not repetitive. Please make sure that it's mutually exclusive. And please make sure that of the 2 pointers that you're going to talk about, if you have to choose one of them and give us a specific strategy that you will do, either to leverage it, to overcome it, to combat it, or to exploit it. And we would do it on the strategic business management class. Yeah, just to make it comprehensive and just to make it uniform. We'll do it on this class per se, not this session, but the entire 3 weeks of, or whatever, 4 sessions, but of strategic business management. Any questions? And you can put it into an Excel sheet and keep handy. When we come back, we'll see how we want to do it. You will definitely talk about it. If you want, you can share your screens and present it as well. Yeah, any questions? And we give you about 20 minutes to do this piece, yeah? And please join the rooms, guys. Those who are logged in and at the beach, please don't do that. Log into the rooms and contribute effectively to your learnings and to the discussions in the rooms. If you have a question, raise your hand, otherwise I'll keep coming into the rooms. Okay, see you soon.
We are moved out of our breakout room.
The invite has come again for me. I'm joining again.
Yeah, I think everybody's on. Great, wonderful. So welcome back. Okay, any first thoughts before we do this exercise jointly as a class for our class overall? Any thoughts? First, assuming you've given a very honest opinion into the discussions that you've had in the breakout rooms, and I've heard some of them, and they appear to be quite meaningful and useful as well. So good. Any other instant feedback on what you did? What was very easy? What was very difficult?
SW was easy, I'll say. OT was little tough.
Yeah.
So from room 5, we can collectively say that
Mhm.
identifying what are internal and external factors was a challenge for us.
Both strengths and weakness?
Yeah, I mean, so there were some factors that we considered can be an opportunity threat, but were also falling into strength and weaknesses. So we were kind of confused, right? Not exactly strength weakness, but we were confused in terms of weakness and opportunity while determining the internal and external factors.
So strengths and threats were okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And threat
Good.
also, we had one use case which we were not sure whether it will be a internal or external factor.
Okay. Very good. Anyone else?
I think threats was, a challenge in identification. So that is what we found out from our, discussion in the breakout room.
Very good. Yeah.
We also understood that some of the weaknesses also can be threats can be weaknesses, but again the point came out that threats are external factors, so that helped us in differentiation between them.
Good. And again, and that helps a lot in the industry also. If you go on reiterating the internal external element, it helps you, makes it a little more easier for you to put it into one of the 4 areas. How many of you had a challenge if you did face it? That is, it can't be at both places. It has to be at one place only. Even if it is a slight resemblance of the earlier part, it can't be there. You take that call, whether it's an X or a Y, whether it's a strength or a weakness, opportunity or a threat. Did anybody have that kind of a?
Yeah, in room
Yeah,
5,
yeah,
we
we had.
definitely had.
You had that. Very good.
Even
And
we
you
had that where
you
to,
had,
overlapping where to put it, whether it's
very
a
good.
weakness or a threat for us.
So how did you do it? You shot the messenger or you took a collective action?
No, we took a collective action
You took
based
a
on.
collective action. Okay. Okay. Wonderful. Good. Great. Once so again, just in the interest of learning, how do we see we do this? I know we have groups, but it's going to take a lot of time. As long as you've done it, it's fantastic. I had asked you to talk about it, which I will definitely ask. And just in the interest of time, the way I will do this is I will again put it on board for us, and we'll do it jointly as a second framework of the SBM class right now, and which is a SWOT. So there were 5 groups in total. Let us start with room number 3. Room number 3 on strengths, please.
Yeah. So on strengths, the first pointer that we wrote was that these sessions that we're having particularly for this course are more interactive rather than a webinar. So that's the first point that we analyzed.
Okay, can you, I'll stop you for that first point.
Yeah.
Because this is interactive, how is that a strength?
Because it gives us more chances to, learn and explore rather than, any other webinar where we just muted and we just listening to what's happening.
Oh, so that is, okay. So therefore, interactive knowledge sharing. Okay. Interactive knowledge sharing. That is your, now, hold on. Is that a strength actually, guys, or will that be an opportunity?
I think that would be an opportunity to get more knowledge and sharing.
Correct. So I'm going to park it here for right now, guys. And any other, who was that from group? Priyansh, was it you?
Yeah.
What was your second point, my friend?
For strength?
Yes.
So with these online sessions, we're able to manage both work and MBA classes together.
And that you feel as an achievement. It should be, but you feel it as an achievement?
That's a strength for this entire program, I would say. Not
Manage.
specific to this class, but yeah.
Yeah, no, but I'm interested. I'm a little selfish, more interested for this class.
So we can say this
Manage.
subject helped us to develop a mindset on how
Yeah.
to formulate business strategy. Like,
Yeah, Dinesh, just 1 second. Let's take Priyansh's point first, and I'm going to add that point here saying manage time, work, home, academics better, own time management skills. Okay, so you are excellent time managers. I would say that's your strength. Yeah, Priyansh?
Yeah, definitely. That's the first one that we thought was very relevant. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Who was it? Any other point? I think Dinesh had a point. Same group or a different group?
different group.
Different group. Okay. Priyansh, strengths over, right? For your group?
We mentioned one more point, which is that the online resources that have been provided for this particular subject have proven to be very advantageous for us, so that whenever we are attending a class, we beforehand have learned what we're going to be studying today. So that makes, we already know that what's going to happen in today's class. So we have more questions for you. We already know what you're going to be talking about. So we are able to understand more.
So what is the strength there? What is the strength there?
The strength is that we're gaining knowledge beforehand.
So that is again an opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah. Dinesh, what was your point or your group's point?
Yeah, so our group discussed that one of the strength of the subject or these sessions are that it helps us to develop a mindset on how to create
an opportunity. Dinesh, sorry, I'll stop you there. Again, an opportunity.
So from room 5, Professor, we had 2 points. First was experienced and distinguished faculty in you.
Oh, thank you.
And the second one was videos and exercises carried out during the class.
Okay. Distinguished, I'm going to spell it nicely, faculty. Okay. And how is it a strength, room 5?
It's a strength because that helps us understand a subject very well with the experience that you get that you bring from the industry, and that helps us to connect with our thoughts and understand the subject more easily.
Okay. Fine. All right. And therefore, so that is the part of the class. And all right. And can I add something here? All of us are working, right? So can I say combined industry experience across sectors? I can say all of us are working. So if I were to, or I might just say combined average industry experience.
It's also the diversification of the industry experience that the participants have here. I think that's a strength here.
Correct. Of what would it be? Average industry experience? Would it be 6-7 years? Or would it be more? Yes, guys.
I think we can put it up to 6-7 years.
Yeah, so 7 years across different sectors.
But that can come into opportunity as well.
That's a strength. That is a strength that you're bringing into the classroom, right? Your industry experience is a strength. And then you're going to say, because we have an industry experience, cross collaborative learnings become far more intelligent and knowledgeable and blah blah.
Right.
Combined industry experience, we are what, 30 into 7, I'll say plus 300 plus years. A lot of us put that in, right? Okay. Great. Guys, if you speak, it's better, because going back into the chat and looking is slightly inconvenient. How do you identify whether it's a strength or a weakness, as I'm finding it difficult to distinguish? George, we all do find it difficult. A strength is basically internal. I have X years of experience is my strength. And that is what I'm bringing onto the classroom so that cross-collaborative learning can happen, and that will be an opportunity. The very fact that we have diverse industries in the class itself is a strength. The fact that we have working executives across different management levels is a strength. The fact that you have an experienced industry faculty is a strength in itself. So you don't have somebody who's talking about it, which is textbookish, but not followed in the industry, to not bring to you those industry nuances that are far more valuable than what you would get otherwise. Okay, so I have combined 2 or 3 points here together, which is okay. You can make this into separate points as well. Now, if you manage time is a skill that you bring with you, it's not that something that you will hone or you will improve. Opportunity for others, fantastic, Pranshu, but what is it for our class? For our class, it is a strength. For all of us, it is a strength. For your other class, this will become whatever an opportunity, weakness, threat, whatever you want to do it, but this is internal. Yeah. Clear, guys?
Right.
Yes, Priyansh, okay?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right, wonderful. Dinesh, fine, since
Yep.
okay, fantastic. So now can we move to weaknesses? So group 3 led us on strength. Let's talk about weaknesses to group 2. Group 2 or room 2?
So one weakness is what we put is like we might perceive things since it's in online. So if we have an internet issue or some other issues, like perceiving things can happen.
Why is it a weakness? You're not going to kill the internet yourself, will you?
No, but if we have the internet connectivity, well, but that is not in our scope, right?
Exactly.
That is external. That is external.
Exactly. That would be external because you're not. If you can upgrade, you will upgrade. If you want to make some measures, in you will make sure that you go into a place where the internet connectivity is undisrupted. But if God forbid something happens, that's out of your control. Yeah, so we will talk about that as a threat. I think somebody mentioned it. We'll talk about it as a threat. It's not a weakness. Why? Because it's not internal.
Okay, so in that case, the other point what we wrote is, so since we are in online mode, we are not meeting in person. So such kind of bonding is kind of less, and we might not know the entire strength as who all meaning not strength in the sense like how many people are there. Like we might not be meeting each other.
Okay. Is that something that you want to tell us as an online delivery? But okay, can I ask, let me play the roles of the devil's advocate here. You signed up for it, you knew about it. So why is it limiting the bond? I mean, it's not something that you came to know only after you joined.
Yeah, that's true.
So then it's not a weakness.
It's an online degree program. Even if the pandemic wasn't there, we would have still been online.
Exactly.
So I don't see it as a weakness.
Okay, so therefore, even that was a question I was saying. It's not a weakness. So what do you think it is? Nothing. And at this point, it is neither of them. Now, what you can say is adapt to bonding with peers, faculty, whatever, administration, adapting to bond with peers, faculty, administration due to online lecture delivery or online classes. Okay, and what I'm trying to say here is I don't know how to bond in this setup. I know very little about how to bond. Maybe as time progresses, I will have to work on this weakness. In this current setup, how do I create that equation with my class and with the faculty and with the administration or whoever so is part of the class? Yeah, that I'm going to. But right now, I find it difficult, but yes, I will have to pick something and work towards it. Right? Okay. Good. Any other weaknesses, my friends?
From room 5, we came up with the following weaknesses. The first one is not coming prepared for the class, right? So you have the async content, you also have the session materials shared earlier, but not going through them prior to the class is a weakness, right? Second one is not clarifying existing doubts during the class. Okay. And the third one is breakout sessions discussions not being recorded.
Okay. Okay, so which one do we take from there? Let's take the first one. Okay, now we can't take all three, we have to take only one. So if I were to take one, then it kind of contradicts my first strength. I am already saying that I am able to manage time very well, and that's a strength that I bring on board. Work, home, academics, hone time management skills, and that's what I am doing. So I can't say that, not reading, coming, blah, blah, I'm not able to do that. I can't say that. Either I remove it from the strength or I don't put it as a weakness.
So can we then use the second or the third one, which is not clarifying doubts during the class or breakout session discussions not being recorded?
Okay, so let's take the second one, limited. Not clarifying doubts during class sessions, right? That's what you're saying.
Yes.
This will be personal, right? Like it's up to the individual. If he's not clarifying,
that's an internal factor. That's why, right?
Yeah, but one individual also, we are a group together, right? We are a department, we are a function, we are a class. Right. So, if it's majority, minority, it's a weakness right now.
Right. So instead of that, can we add this point, like saying like the long like sessions, and we have a heavy learning to be done in 4 sessions, so like limit number of sessions to cover the vast big subjects.
Okay, now again, I'll play the role of the devil's advocate. You signed up for it. You knew that there are going to be 4 sessions only. Okay, hampers understanding here. Don't worry, Dinesh. I'm going to put your point across differently. Especially when there are limited number of sessions and huge and vast knowledge to be gained, if I can use those words. Assuming we gain knowledge, yeah.
From room 1, we had put time bound as one of the weaknesses. So I don't know if that's an internal, if it is fitting there or not.
When you say time bound, what are you trying to tell us? Okay, just 1 second.
Yeah.
Is this correct? Apikshit and Dinesh, your points combined and fused into one. Reads okay, both of you?
Yep.
All right, very good. Yes, ma'am. Who was that? I don't know.
Shrimanti here.
Yes, so, Shrimanti, tell me.
So time bound, when we were putting it, so the view was that, something that if we need, we have to grasp everything in that maybe 2.5 hours. So that is one weakness that we found. So, but again, with the conversation that we were just having, it is, so I really don't know that whether now we are putting it in the right quadrant, because so again, as you said, you knew that this course is a time bound thing. So correct. I don't know whether.
Correct. No, but this is what's happening. Not clarifying your doubts during class session hampers understanding, especially when there are limited number of sessions, 4, and I'll add your point of 2.5 for 4 hours each, and vast knowledge to be gained. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm explaining it a little more in depth. Reads fine now, ma'am?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's move on to now opportunities. And for opportunities, let's go to room 5.
So for opportunities, the point that we wrote was applying knowledge gained from class in workplace as an opportunity.
Absolutely, applying knowledge gained from class learnings at workplace, right?
Yes. The second point that we spoke about is as an opportunity is capturing the chat in screen recordings on YouTube. So the screen recordings typically only captures the session, but the right hand side panel of chat does not get captured in YouTube.
And why do you want to know that? To know questions that were asked?
Yeah, what was discussed during the class, and that can be helpful. So from that aspect, that was the second point.
But is that an opportunity or is that a weakness?
We thought of it as an opportunity rather than weakness, because our confusion was in a class we only thought about you as a faculty and we as a student. Correct. And recording that we thought is an external factor, because of which we put it in an opportunity.
Yeah, but recording is also a part of us only, right? So it is a weakness.
Okay.
Yeah, I would put it as a weakness.
Yeah, and the third one, which was again something we had a confusion whether it should be a weakness or an opportunity, because we were not able to determine the mutual exclusion, was the fact that active participation from all students in the class as an opportunity, but that can also be a weakness.
Right. We just said not clarifying doubts, right? So I would not put it as an active participation.
Yeah.
Can applying knowledge gained from class learnings at workplace, I'm going to add it, and in class discussions. Cross collaborative learnings, right? Isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Wonderful. And now what? Any other opportunity?
No, these are the three that we thought, Professor.
Okay.
From room 5.
Okay,
Can
good.
we?
And yes.
So can we add resource availability as opposed to, like, we have async content and sync content, like we can have watch videos or read the content and then, you know?
Okay. Okay. Format, current lecture format provides opportunity for focused learning and discussions in class.
Even the projects that we
better class preparation and discussion. Okay. Yeah, tell me.
So from room number 1.
Yeah, sorry, Dinesh, just a minute.
Okay,
Dinesh, your
sorry.
point covered. Does that read okay?
Yes.
All right. Yes. Who was it?
Yeah.
Next?
So from room number 1, what we had written in jot down in opportunities was learning from different participants. Real-time used cases reference. These were one of the 2
and
points.
in-class discussions by peers,
One-on-one
cross-collaborative
conversations.
learning, one-to-one conversations. And you said something real-time, right? Case studies.
Real-time use, used cases.
Real-time used cases and industry.
But Professor, wouldn't that be a strength? Because we talked about 300 plus years of
that is all, my friend. That is what you're bringing into the classroom. But as a result of that, the opportunity is to learn from you and then share my learnings also.
Okay.
That is the opportunity. Yeah. Now, it will be a disaster if you come in with the industry experience and don't have those cross-cultural learnings or cross-collaborative learnings. That is the biggest hamper to learning. in my personal view. So good point, guys. Good point, or rather points. Let's take and move to the next session group, and that let's talk to group 4 on threats.
That was the most difficult part, to be very frank.
Okay.
Yeah, like we discussed few points, but again, we think those can be, that might contradict with other things that we already noted down. Something like, the format or the, we have for these lectures or the course overall. It will be difficult for newbies to get adjusted or adapt, but we already written that as a strength. So,
yes, correct.
Yeah, and then, I think those are the points that we discussed, but then again, they are contradicting.
Okay, good. And Dinesh, very well. I don't know if you appreciated it, but that's self-learning, and nothing can beat that. What you just told me is the fantastic last 30 minutes spent, because you are self-knowing and self-doing that. And I think that's brilliant. Anyone else?
So from room 5, we thought about internet connectivity issues, laptop, phone issues, Zoom server outage, power cut.
Yes.
These 4, we had a collective agreement. There was a 5th point that we debated, and that point was where we had this confusion of internal versus external factor. And that point was that if NMIMS, this is an extreme case, if NMIMS drops strategic business management as a subject from the course, okay, that was one factor that we spoke about in threats.
Okay. Yeah. Now, if it drops, will it keep something else?
Yeah, there will be a replacement, but then we as students will lose the opportunity of mastering strategic business management as a subject. And it is very essential from a business analytics perspective.
Right. But what if you get a better output or a better course?
That depends when it is presented, right? At this point of time, that option hasn't been presented. So we were not so sure whether this would be a threat or not.
Okay. Okay. I will just keep that point on board. If there's anything else, that is a threat also. But let's talk about it as a point number 3 or so. And if you have something else, I would like to consider that first. Anyone else on a threat?
From group 3.
Yes.
Yeah. So from group 3, we also, apart from internet connectivity that was already mentioned, we also wrote about that personal touch is missing during the online sessions that we have. Like
that person is missing.
Personal touch.
Personal touch. Okay.
Yeah. So like it's not like a live session, right? We're not interacting one-on-one. It's like over Zoom that we're doing this interaction. So that kind of can be a threat, because that might lead to less focus among students. So that can be a threat.
Okay, Priyansh, but I will not put that in, because we've put that in a way with W1 as a weakness already, with S1 as a strength, and with O1 as an opportunity. So with those kinds of points, then I will not put this as a threat.
Right.
Okay. Anyone else?
Hi, sir. So am I audible?
Yep, you are.
Yeah. So under threat, I would like to contribute like easing content, confusing various modules or topics.
Confusing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Why is it a threat? Because we are putting that down as an opportunity. Current lecture format provides opportunity for focused learning and discussions in class.
Confusing as such, because we need to prepare for IA, right? And then we are coming for the lecture. So,
correct. But that is a lecture format, and exactly, and you are aware of it. And you are aware of it. Okay. Or in my 2 bits, you signed up for it.
So, Professor, can like if you're not updating ourselves on the latest technologies, so that's a threat for our job. So
not updating yourself with latest technologies. Okay. Would
Instead
that
of
be a
no? I would say then latest frameworks in strategic business management.
But isn't that an opportunity to learn? You're saying?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
That's
an opportunity.
So if that's an opportunity, it's not a threat.
Can we add that? Sorry. Can we add that point that Nisha mentioned about distraction? That while in this live session, it's easy to get distracted. Like, you can just mute yourself and you do whatever stuff you want to do and not in the class. So can that be a threat? Like you mentioned, some people are on beaches.
Yes, correct. So is it a threat or is it a weakness?
It's a
I was thinking
weakness
from
for
an
me.
external factor.
For us, it's a strength, I think.
No, it's not a strength, Kajal. Signing up
I'm
and going
just
to the beach. Yeah, signing up and going to the beach is definitely not a strength. If you're
no.
going to the beach, you got to take us along. You can't go alone and have all the fun.
No, I'm just thinking because we have lost our break of 10 minutes, where we can refresh ourselves. So because of the breakout sessions, that is what I'm thinking on particular note. At that point of time, whenever we need a break, we can just mute and we can come back whenever needed.
Okay.
5 minutes.
Why is it a threat? Yeah, let's.
It's a weakness.
No, it's not a weakness. Also, it's not a weakness. Also. What about this one? Anyone else?
Yeah, so from group one, what we had 2 points in threads that dynamics of the market can outdate the current study. That is one thread that we had written. And also we had written absenteeism from the class.
Okay, uncertainty, market dynamics. Now, what do you define by this? Yeah.
So the concepts, probably the concepts might not change, but the use cases, the live examples might vary with the current trends in the market, the way the market is changing on a day-to-day basis. So what was applicable 4 years back might not be applicable today. So again, the same thing. What we are trying to put it as a real life study might not be applicable at 2 years, 3 years down the line.
That's okay. But what we are talking about is probably the frameworks and principles, and these frameworks will only help you grow in the future as they have helped someone grow in the past. And if something is not applicable 4 years later, if we say that at the workplace, the answer comes out saying, let's worry about next year. 4 years is a very long time. We don't know where, what, how things are going to be.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that point, what we are going to talk about is uncertainty, anxiety, market dynamics, and COVID as such. Yes, we are getting better. But if somebody tells me, are you going to do this next month? And I say that God willing, if everything is good. And that point comes across as about tomorrow, power disruptions can't do anything, but tomorrow there's uncertainty that a lot of cases go up. Maybe online classes get cancelled, and then what are you going to do? The learning gets hampered, or probably the format changes, or probably something else happens because of the anxiety and all these things. The whole the whole learning module will crumble, and that we all have a living by it on a day-to-day basis.
Sure.
Yeah, and if you want another third one, will be competition from other courses. While we have whatever are our strengths, what if some other course leverages the same? This course will have to be on a forerunner to better itself, to combat competition. Okay, so yeah, those are threats. Now, yeah.
Hey, Professor.
Yes.
So under opportunity, point number 2, are we talking about async or we are considering only the live session, or we are considering
no, both
of them?
The entire current format, including IA format.
Okay.
Everything, the whole course format. Yeah. Now, guys, you did talk about a break. Do you need one quickly for 5 minutes and come back and wrap this up, or what? Or are we good to go ahead? Or you've already taken your break behind the camera?
5 minutes would be great.
Would be great. So let's give you quickly 5 minutes and come back and continue with this. Yeah. All right, people, are we back?
Yes, sir.
Great. So let's start off and let's pick up from where we left before we went on our break. And now that we've done all of this in a very, very refined manner, and that's how we would do it in the industry also. Let's pick one of them. So let's start with room one. In the strength side, pick any one of them and tell me how can we leverage it. What do you think we should do to leverage it? Room one. Anybody from room one, or are you back, or are you at the beach? Room one? Nobody here from room one? Okay, room two, anyone? Or anybody here from the class? How can we leverage these as a strength? Pick any one of them.
Time management.
Okay, the first one you mean to say S1?
Yeah, effective time management.
And how can you leverage it?
Also by maintaining some kind of a proper discipline, like making
No, not
sure
maintain, not maintain. Okay, maintain that discipline, and therefore.
Yeah.
Correct. That's what you mean.
Yes.
Okay. So get more done with better time management skills possessed. Good. All right.
Can we add our point now, like the one which I highlighted initially, that this help us to develop a mindset on how to get business strategies?
Help you develop a mindset. I'll put it as an opportunity, because here you can do more things done with better time management.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you can manage your time well, maybe you can read a book, or you can do up another course, or you can participate in a workplace related meeting, environment, discussion, training, whatever be the case. Yeah. Now you might wonder, how the hell do we do that? But you will do that because that's your strength. Okay. Anyone else now for let's talk weakness? Pick any one of them and tell us how do we overcome it. Anyone?
Asking questions.
Yeah.
W1 or W2?
W2.
W2, okay. Okay.
Extra sessions.
To be encouraged to ask questions, right? And who will encourage?
I think it should be self-driven rather than.
If they are not, then how do we push on that? If they were self-driven, then this problem would not have arisen.
Then should it be like professor randomly picking up people and asking questions?
Correct. Participant to be encouraged by faculty to ask questions. Rapid fire, random picks, right? Should help. Okay. To ensure effective understanding. So which means if somebody gets picked, it is not to mock somebody, but to encourage and foster learning and growth, and that maturity needs to exist. Right? Okay, good, very good. Anything on opportunities? Yes.
We already have breakout rooms. We have already leveraged one of the opportunity for the 0-2 second opportunity.
0-2. Okay.
So we have breakout rooms that help us for focused discussions.
Okay, focused okay, or use of breakout rooms, right, for focused discussions
in smaller group.
and what was that? Yeah, and an engagement, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Live
good.
examples also from the participants, since they are from diversified industries.
Only participants, huh?
Participants and faculty. Basically, live examples of from the industries where we are all part of.
Okay, but I'm sorry to say I haven't heard any live examples from the class as yet. This is my third session. So how is it an opportunity?
It is an opportunity. Maybe we are not exploiting it.
Yeah, yes. So therefore, participants to be encouraged by, I'm going to say class, to be encouraged by class, which is all of us, not just faculty, but all of us, to be encouraged by class to share learnings from workplace. Right?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Does that cover the point?
Yes, it does.
Very good. All right. Fantastic. Threats. Who wants to pick this one up? Anyone?
Have good internet connection, high speed connection.
Yeah, but we always do. So then what is the point? Which one are you taking?
No, I'm just these two threats that you have jotted it down there. That's what I was thinking of on how to combat that.
Which ones? Okay.
Power and
Yeah.
internet disruptions. I really don't know how power can be. How can we do that? It's not in our hands also.
Mm-hmm.
We have a backup or something.
Staying calm.
Power backup.
A backup plan.
Sorry, I think the second one we can write that we can, leverage or we can combat it by agility in our nature.
Thank you. Very good point. Wonderful. Agile, being agile.
Yeah.
Okay. Better scenario manage or better scenario planning or option management, as they call it. Better scenario handling. Or develop backup plans. Yeah. Very good. And this is important because every time we talk, we should talk about the fact, like, if in case this does not happen, what is an alternative backup plan? And neither did I talk about it when I came in, though I have it in my mind, but I didn't discuss it, nor was it asked. Neither did I ask. Yeah. So we are assuming a lot of things here, but clarity should be brought about here that if this is not happening for whatever reason, what is how do we ensure that what we plan to talk about is what we're going to definitely cover, and that does not suffer unless, for example, if unless it is a problem that is faced, then that is a separate story. But at least we on our side need to be very clear about it. Okay, good. Very good. Any questions, guys? Hope it was interesting and learning, and we now understand it, hopefully, far more better than what we did when we went into our breakout rooms to know what is a strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Personally, the most difficult one for me is to write and identify the weakness. The easiest for me is to do strengths and then opportunities and then threats. And the most toughest one, I spend a lot of time with teams and myself if I were to put down weaknesses. Firstly, the biggest barrier there is to acknowledge a weakness. And secondly, to identify how to overcome it. And when you say how to overcome it, we need to first point fingers at ourselves rather than pointing fingers at other departments, other people within the organization, saying they don't do this and they should do this. There you need to say, what should you as a department do first to overcome the weakness? Yeah. Clear? Class clear? Hope it was useful.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so this goes into your kitty of pestle, what we did yesterday, and today what we did as SWOT. And that takes us to the next kind of, what should I say, a framework, another very powerful framework, very much used by back office and front office, more or less for organizational efficiency. And that's called as VCA, or value chain analysis. This analysis, all of us at our organizations have two bigger strategic objectives to manage. And one of that is profitability, and the other one of that is efficiency and effectiveness. And both are intertwined. A lot of us get into what should I say, technology. And if a lot of us are getting into technology, we get in with a wrong objective, and that is to optimize costs. We should get in with the right objective. How does it benefit my customer? And only then is it going to be effective, because optimizing costs or rationalizing costs may fall back, especially when it is not helping your customers. So the value chain analysis puts this thought away and makes sure that you get both your cost advantage of operation and a competitive advantage when you are dealing in the marketplace through your USPs and VSPs that you talk about to your external world. So the first and foremost, you got to identify within your business, within your organization, which are the primary activities of your organization and which are the support business partner activities of your organization. So functions like finance, human resource, technology, procurement are all support functions. We know that, but functions like customer service, marketing, operations that directly deal with the external customer are all primary activities. So I would say primary activities are those activities that, as a result of which, you deal with the customer directly, and support activities are those activities that support the primary activities to deal with the external customer, ultimately contributing to profits. So you first identify the activities of primary and secondary activities, then you allocate cost. The tough part at times is to allocate IT costs, for example, but there are means of doing it. Either people do a blanket formula across IT, across business units, or IT is expected to submit a timesheet saying maximum for which unit, and therefore costs get allocated accordingly to those units. But allocate a cost, even if it's ballpark, allocate it for activities done, all of these that are identified in the first stage, which is primary and secondary. Once you've identified costs and you've identified activities, prioritize them basically from the point of view of what are needed for you to differentiate yourself in the marketplace. Are they a part of VSP, your USP that you provide? For example, you say, our packaging is sustainable and we therefore distinguish ourselves in the marketplace on that. Now, if anything that is done to support your packaging, therefore, even though it is high cost, has to be done, because that is your USP, VSP. And it is also critical to customer engagement or customer experience. And therefore, everything, primary and secondary and cost allocations, have got to be customer driven as opposed to organization driven. Yeah, that helps. These could be examples of your cost drivers: economies of scale, linkages, location, timing. Any and all of these could be your cost drivers that you want to do. Location, people say, let's not have a dedicated branch, let's be present in a mall. Let's not have a branch in itself, let's have an online support function. Let's have only one. All these kinds of decisions can then be made as part of your cost drivers, but the benefit has got to be to the customer ultimately. It is a lot of benefit. Firstly, you're truly following the philosophy of being customer centric. Your costs are allocated wisely, your resources are allocated wisely. You are able to have a better control in terms of what priorities, what action you need to take. If it's cost, you can take decisions like outsourcing or insourcing, depending on the data. sometimes the cost allocation part becomes very difficult, especially as I said, in the case of IT or HR or these functions across the organization. But nevertheless, a ballpark is better than no cost. Yeah. So it has more merits than demerits, and therefore used by organizations every 2 to 3 years to be able to relook at their processes or re-engineer their processes and make it more customer driven. Change agents. Now, who is responsible for change in the organization? Who do you think is? Or who do you think change should be driven in the organization? Any thoughts there, people? Top management or change management team? Okay. Anyone else has a different point? Employees. I would say everybody in the organization is responsible for change. It is not a person appointed or a department formulated or the senior management or the middle or the junior management, right from the person who is the security to the chief executive officer are all responsible to transform, to come up with a change, and not just come up with a change, but to implement it also. At Citibank, they actually ignored staff suggestion and took the suggestion from a consultant to stop to stop physical statements and to promote e-statements, especially for their credit card bills. Staff had suggested it, but it was the external consultants whose view was taken and the suggestion was implemented. It saved them huge, significant costs in their operations. But I'm saying have enough avenues like a suggestion scheme, which is not just a good aspect, but which is thoroughly followed with regards to obtaining a suggestion, evaluating a suggestion, and then implementing it also. Many times suggestions don't get implemented because egos clash and saying, how can somebody from outside tell me how to run my businesses, and I will come up with a reason why not to implement it, as opposed to accepting it and saying, wow, what a thought, let me implement it. And yes, organization culture plays a strong role at it, but it should happen. What are they responsible for? They're responsible for bringing about changes across the organizations, which is any and all, sundry and all. It could be tactical, but it has a strategic impact. So these suggestions can be evaluated quarterly, half yearly, and then can be brought into the strategic planning cycle for you to be able to consider them going forward. If it's not possible, it's not possible. Like, people said our branding needs to change. The colors look very dull and drab, and that is causing a big problem with our, with our products and services to be used by our audiences. It came up as a suggestion, it was evaluated, and then the team said maybe we could go into a rebranding exercise. The CEO said, sorry, we can't, because these are the colors that we are bound by the board of directors, and they will never agree to change in this because it has some sentimental value. Now you've done it, you know the answer, so therefore you know what you have done with this change agent. You know consciously that you can't do this because of constraints that you have to go through, which is okay as long as it is acknowledged. Yeah. So don't depend on a consultant to tell you, because consultants, with all due respect to everybody, they will just tell you what you tell them, probably in a refined manner. Let people from within talk about it. So there is a department only to facilitate it rather than being the sole responsibility for it. So you have names like change management team. You have departments like research and development, counseling. You have departments like transformation agents. These are the roles that they are bringing onto board. We will not do a class exercise on this, but that's broadly what we wanted to talk about. Today's frameworks: SWOT, Bcg Matrix, VC, or value change and change analysis, and a concept of transformation or change driving strategy. And the biggest barrier to change is your comfort zones, and you need to be out of these comfort zones to promote what you would like to promote and achieve your strategic goals and intentions. Yeah, so that's what we did in our today's class, and that is basically our session number 3. The feedback should be up and running. I think it should be there in the chat. I don't see it. Okay, we still have half an hour, right? Isn't it? Yeah, so it'll probably come through. If you have feedback links on, then probably you can work towards it, or you can look at filling it in if you have it. Otherwise, I think the link will come in a few minutes. Now, before I would not let us do a class exercise in the interest of time, but as far as the as far as the change agents are concerned, can we give an example either of an organization or whatever we went through telling us this is the change that we did, we should have done, or we implemented it, or we should have implemented it? Any such examples, either what you see around you or at your workplace or whatever? Now, a lot of you are, during the discussion, picked up that this is a business analytics master's. And I'm glad that you chose this. And I'm glad that some of you related directly with strategy, because what good is an analysis if it is not answering a strategic objective? The biggest barrier to that is a lot of us do analysis, but sorry to say it, it goes into the zone of analysis, into paralysis. We want to do analysis so that we should be able to make sense out of a strategic objective, help achieve what we intend to achieve. So yes, it should be strategically aligned. You can't ignore analysis. It's a data-driven culture, but let that data be in the line of answering the why we are doing it to alignment of strategy. Otherwise, we only get into a rat race of doing analysis, churning out data, which nobody has any sense of understanding. So I don't think we should fall into that trap or into that loop. Interpretation, don't just dump the information saying take it or leave it. Help the user decipher the data and take a decision. The important part here is to take a decision, and that becomes important for strategy as well. We procrastinate. All these tools and techniques are there, and we come up with excuses, in my language, lame excuses, not to take a decision. There are only few of us who actually want to take a decision, even if we have 90% of information or even 80% of information. It's better to take one than delay it and wait for the balance 10 or 20% of information. Okay. So yeah, any examples of change agents or change management or transformations? If I nudge the class a little bit more, how can we get these change managers? How can we get these change managers how can we get these change managers to bring about a change? Why do you think change may not happen, or why do you think change does happen?
I can tell you one example from my previous organization. So we were a data analytics team, and we were about to do some data on the particular department's data. And when we were doing some kind of analysis and showing them, first of all, they were not ready to accept whatever we were showing. First, because it's their data and they know much better than us. So that kind of a approach was there. And then to overcome that, we have to tell them that these are their normal operating conditions. And you can also verify with the OEM, meaning original equipment manufacturer sheets. And then slowly we brought into the confidence that whatever we are showing and whatever they are knowing are going to be the same. So we are speaking with the help of data, even though we do not know the machines. So then slowly, after repeated discussions and showing some confidence, we were able to bring some change that we are finally going to help them and not going to be replacing them, or it's not going to be pinpointing them that whatever you're doing is wrong, but it's going to be kind of a what do you call cost-effective program is what we are trying to, kind of a prescriptive analytics.
Oh, great. Wonderful. And it worked.
Yeah, but that took like 3 to 6 months of a time.
Yes. No, it's still glad. And the point that you made very wisely is change. It does not happen overnight. It happens with time. And average takes about 6 months to a year, going upwards in some cases for 3 years also. It took me about 3.5 years with my CEO to tell them that we should stop these operations and not continue investing money into this, because we are 10 years in an operation. And it took me 3 years for them to agree. When you present customer insights, the first question that people say is, it is bullshit, it is wrong. And that's when, if you have data to support it, including the methodology. So if I had tape recorded it, I'm going to play those recordings, that will listen it from your customers directly. The only thing that you've got to do is be patient, be focused, and be reiterative, because then change will happen eventually if you're at it. If you give up, it's not going to happen. Yeah, and acknowledging is the first and foremost. It might seem easy, but let me tell you, as you go up the ladder, corporate egos are far more important than admitting to a mistake and acknowledging to a mistake. And those organizations that do that excel. Those who don't do that definitely don't excel. There was a mobile banking app that we had launched at the bank, and I was told by the CEO to evaluate the mobile app, saying, why is it good or why is it bad? And at the end of the term, I was told by all the people saying, my CEO came and said, the IT, the operations, the marketing, and are all saying that they've done a fabulous job for it, so they need to be rewarded and bonused. Can you give me something to make my decision? He was on the verge of giving them the bonus amounts, and said, because I want to give it to them, can you just tell me what I should be doing with them? So I mean, this seems to be very simple and objective, just present but what you have to. But where do we get the data from? How do we get the data, and how do we make a decision here, a strategic decision here, whether they should be paid bonuses or not this year or not for the achievements that they have done in the marketplace? And therefore, it is a data-driven decision. And I'm just going to share what I did. So it took I had a 2 week or a 10-day window to be able to put it together. I did it. It's a 5-page thing that I did. So first things I said, let's talk about the total apps that were downloaded, total number of downloads that were done right from the time it was launched till the end of the year. And there were about 17,000. Through the chart, I also gave them incremental downloads that happened month after month. The second one being, how are these splits between Google and Apple? And then went down to doing an average per day analysis as well. Having done that, then I said, what were the total login attempts made? So 2/3 were successful. 1/3 was failed, with some qualitative feedback saying they failed because of these reasons, either invalid username, password, or an OTP. Number of successful logins that were made period on period, and how did we increase login attempts made over the period, and therefore we never had a success rate of above 70%. Average number of logins per day. A number of customers using it. So we had a total of 7,000 customers. And actually this said at the total level, our retail customers were so much, Uninet customers or internet banking customers were so much, and mobile app customers were so much. So, I presented this saying 7,000 out of 20,000. So it's 1/3 done, 2/3 still not done. And we said that needs to be looked at closely. I had also pushed forward saying, as a quick win, as a solid win, we need to be able to get our internet users into the mobile app. So I said that we only got 1/3, 2/3 we didn't get a profile of these customers, internet versus mobile. So this is the expat Asian group that is short by about 6%, because in the universe there are about 58%. We've done well with the Arab expats and the locals here, and a little bit bad compared to other nationalities. So we know which nationalities do we have to pick to be able to reach out to them. A little bit more about functions that they have used the app for, and the largest one being a checkbook request. And the value of the transactions that they did was in about, in terms of the value, and again, it's distributed by functions. Now, having presented this data, what can you tell me? What should I tell the CEO? In terms of whether it was a successful one or a not successful one. What should I tell the CEO? Should they get paid the bonus or should they not get paid? And interestingly, the entire analysis, there are about 10 or 12 worksheets along with that. All of this was done only in powerful, wonderful Excel, including the graphs and charts. I've PDF'd it because when you look at everything else, it's kind of interlinked and it's kind of linked with macros. So how do I take my decision with the CEO, with the executive management sitting in there? I've done in my presentation, my CEO says, so what? Should we pay bonus or should we not? Is the mobile app launch successful or not? And your answer is?
Can we see the data again, please, Professor?
Okay. Can you see it again? Yes, just a minute. Here. So total number of downloads, total number of login attempts, total number of users, and I think this page has the answers in my opinion. And then total number of functions done, and then total number of transactions done. Yeah.
Was it seen as a competitive advantage, Professor, having a mobile app compared to others?
Yes, it was. At that point of time, it was.
Okay.
And therefore, people demanding bonuses.
Right.
Because they said we delivered it by the end of the month, end of the year in 5 months, and it was doing superb and blah, blah, blue. So we all need to get rewarded.
Also depends on the potential expansion of the customer base based upon this initiative. That also matters.
Right. So if you're in the meeting room and the CEO asks you, so what do you think we should do? Should we give them the bonus or not?
Multiple factors are there. I think that's where we need to understand.
Fantastic. So yes or no, or can't say.
Yeah, right.
What would you do? What would you pick up as? Can't say.
More data points would be required, and the future strategic initiatives that the bank would be taking.
Okay, so if you say more data points required, if I'm in the meeting room, I'm going to ask you saying within the data points, what is your answer? And based on the analysis you do, what is your view?
I think they should get rewarded. So the employees will be motivated and they will be driving more numbers.
Okay, if it is only to motivate, just give them a blanket bonus. But have they achieved it? Is it performance-driven bonus?
No, it's not performance-driven bonus, as per my understanding.
So what would you say, Jaya? You're disrupting the meeting, the boardroom right now. So what will you say?
I would say that although we did achieve some of the targets, or I would say it has performed better, but it's not as good as the expectations, or the increase on an year-on-year is not as good as we could have expected.
So therefore, the answer is no.
No from my side.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Good. Anyone else?
What was the expectation from the board earlier for this initiative?
There is no expectation. When you prepare a proposal, of course, the expectations are skyrocketing because you inflate numbers and present. And now everybody wants to get a bonus for what the work they did. And they are all wanting an amount. And the CEO says he is wanting to bell the cat, putting the strategy person in place. And in this case, it happens to be me. So I am in the meeting room with all these big shots. It's very intimidating to say yes or no, because you don't know which way the discussion is going to go. So, and with a lot of pressure coming on, with a lot of, noise saying, as you get into the meeting room, my obvious state of mind would be whatever it is, I will say yes. I don't care because it's not from my pockets and I cannot spoil my relationships with executive management, with all these people. And that was my thought when I presented this data in the meeting room. But after the presentation, I said, is that right for what I would be doing to my function? And the answer was no. And if the answer is no, then why am I pretending to, please people for the wrong reasons? So I said, sir, because you're asking me, my answer would be a no. And why? Because if you had X number of people as internet banking users, we've only got 1/3. These are our low-hanging fruits. These are our fruits that we should have got. We should have got 100%, at least 90% of them converted, which we didn't. I understand there are teething problems, but it's been 6 months after the launch. And if there are still teething problems, then we cannot expect bonuses in a moment where we are still, fighting the clouds out and bring about clarity in the whole situation. So if you really were to ask me, my answer would be no. We have implemented it, but not achieved our desired targets to be able to give them a bonus. Of course, it is quite painful when you look at everybody's eyes onto you like a hawk, but you have to do your job right. Yeah. So if you're in strategy, you are bound by speaking the truth, and of course, coupled up by insights or data, you cannot afford to firstly delay a decision. Secondly, don't come up with the reason saying I want more data to answer my initial question itself. Does not fit the bill properly.
So, Professor, I just want to understand, okay, the question about giving the bonus is one part of it. So what do we do next to achieve what was targeted?
Correct. So here the action plan would be, if you had, say, 100 internet banking customers, if you only got 20, first get all the 80 onboarded in the next month's time. And then increase your customer base. And then when you put in the proposal, what was the target that you kept there? Compare it to that. Because when you put in the proposal, you had an action plan. And why haven't you achieved those numbers?
Yeah.
And then you do a deep dive analysis saying what could be done to achieve those numbers, what are the barriers, and how do we overcome them?
Yeah, some areas I can say that people are not tech savvy. In rural parts of India, they don't want to, they don't have access, or some challenges are there. I'm just taking an example.
Yeah, fine. So if those are the ones that are there, if you've included them as part of your plans to launch this as your customer base, what action should we do to make them a part of it? Is it education? Is it awareness? Is it prolonged education? Those are the strategies that you will discuss in the boardroom then.
Rather than that, what we can think about is how we are adding value to the customer with respect to these services. Just because of we have a mobile banking app, it doesn't make any difference to the customer, then it doesn't make any value.
Correct. But my friend, that is the question you have to ask at the time of conceptualizing the idea, not at the time of implementing one.
Yes.
If you've implemented a mobile app, that question does not hold true. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Good. Very good. Great, guys. So please, guys.
Professor, I have a question.
Yeah. Just a minute. We can do parallel processing. I see some people dropouts also, and I want 100% response rate. That's my simple objective. There's a link form that's been sent up there. Kindly fill it up because at least if you have 15 of us here, let's have all of you fill out the form, please. Yes, Jaya, you can go ahead with your question.
Yeah. So in this scenario only, whatever, say, suppose you have presented the numbers and it clearly shows that the employees do not deserve a bonus. Okay.
Correct.
But okay, they did not meet the objectives, or they did not meet the numbers. Everything is against them. But what
Right.
about their hard work or whatever, say, suppose when you just mentioned that whether to implement something, it should be decided at the conceptualization phase. And of course, that might have gone to the levels of, say, the higher management for approval as well. Okay. So it's not only one team who should be accounted for, because of them it failed, or because they did not use certain strategies that they could not make the product a bigger success. So what happens in such cases? Like, I'm asking a real life scenario. Like, see, the numbers say that they don't deserve a bonus, but what about, when it was conceptualized or whatever the features was added, it might have been agreed by everyone. So shouldn't everybody is to be blamed here, and should not only be the bonuses of those particular employees be cut? It should not be like that, right?
Yeah, but the departments who are asking are the departments who are directly affected. So IT is asking for it, operations is asking for it, and marketing is asking for it. So all these three departments who are working on this project are asking for their bonuses. It should not be paid to any of them.
Okay.
Yeah. So nobody should get a bonus for this activity. In fact, if I was a stringent CEO, I would say you would be not getting a salary increase also, because you haven't done your basic task of at least getting your internet banking users as mobile users to begin with. Okay.
Okay, Professor.
Yeah, but that was a good one, Jaya, which you said. Very bold move. It takes guts to say that, that you will not give a bonus. Easy said than done. But as loyalist to your function, as responsive to your professionalism, you must take the right decision. Good. Can you please fill the feedback form, guys? If you're not already doing it, kindly do it. I want all 15 of you at least. If there are more, that's awesome. But all of you to have filled one out as my target of 100% response rate.
Sir, one question.
Sure.
Maybe little off topic also. So
No,
when
no,
you
no,
are telling, whenever you're telling to the board that it's a strong no, or let's generalize this, if you're going to break the opinions of the room, so then how about the relationship between the team and the board, and post that?
Yeah, based on you, please don't become a scapegoat. Please don't be the person who's going to, be the scapegoat or the, bait for building relationships. Your relationships with everybody is going to be pathetic, but it's going to be professional. Your image in the organization is this person is always going to speak the truth and work in the interest of the organization. And hopefully, everybody will consciously respect you. If not, the CEO should definitely respect you. And if this does not happen, try and test it out for a few times, and then you know what you have to do. Either bend, which you shouldn't, or change, which is what you need to look at, because the organization is not fit for purpose in such a scenario. And sometimes what happens is the CEO still goes ahead and gives the bonus if you're saying no. It is irritating, but when you have the chance, I do make a point and say, what's the point of doing it if you've already decided? We all will just look busy. That's it.
Okay. So basically what happened was the same scenario like you said. So we were looking little awkward in terms of the other people, because we are proving with the data that your assumption or whatever you were thinking about the product was wrong. Then since we are not the data owning team, so we are dependent on their data, then post that we were not in very good relationship, right? So that kind of things will happen, right? So have you ever faced it? And then if it is going to happen, how we can overcome that? So
Yes,
basically
yes.
that was the question behind it.
Yeah, in fact, you will get a lot of sufferings. They will boycott you, they will mock you, they will make fun of you. All of that is going to happen so that tomorrow you are going to be able to bow down to a whole discussion. My executive vice president would call me into his meeting room, and in front of his team, he would yell, raise his voice so that the other person gets intimidated and says, "Okay, I will change the presentation to suit your purpose." Very close to doing that. And what I then said is, "Sir, when you calm down, please call me and we'll discuss it. This is not changing. You can talk to the CEO, and if he changes it, I have no problems." So then what I do is, when I raise the thing in the review meeting, I say, "This is what I was presenting. The executive vice president had a concern. Mr. Sir, ma'am, can you please raise your concern now?" And it's good to be hated, because if I like it, if I'm hated, because which means I'm doing my job.
Okay.
Because of course, it requires a mindset. It requires a decision that you would like to take consciously for yourself. Otherwise, if you can't do these things, don't get into strategy, don't get into data analytics. Please don't do that. Choose some other field where this is acceptable. Yeah, so objectivity, integrity, and helping make decisions is what are the prerequisites of what you will bring onto the table. Yeah. Good, guys. So have you filled out the form, or you haven't as yet?
Yes, sir, done.
Okay, fantastic. If you've done it, just a minute. All right, everybody's done it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 15. So everybody's done it. So, guys, so, okay, we are on 3 down out of 4. So 75% done. How was it? How are these 3 sessions put together? Are they knowledge building and helping you understand things better and appreciate the nuances? Anything else that you want us to focus on in our last session?
So I think.
Hello?
Yes, sir, the exam pattern, the final exam.
Yes, I haven't done that as yet. I will talk about that next week. Yeah. I mean, next week in the sense, the last class is what I will do it. I will talk about it. I'll talk about the exam, and I will talk about my expectations of how you must answer the exam. So good, guys. If there are no more questions, then yes, have a beautiful Sunday and a fantastic week ahead. Please try and link this to your workplace and come up with a little more of insights as to whether you use a balanced scorecard or not, and if you were to use it, can you or can you not? Which of these frameworks do you think will be relevant for your strategic planning for your unit that you will do? If you can come up with these thoughts, it'll only add to our discussion again. So kindly do that. And we will enrich the discussion next week as well. Thank you for being participative. Adds a lot of value to learnings if you've realized it. Otherwise, it gets very, very boring. I don't know about your side, but it is absolutely a boring session for me to just talk for 2.5 hours to a wall. Dislike it, and I show my signs of doing that also. So fantastic. Keep the momentum going, and let's see you next week for our session 4. Have a beautiful day and a week ahead.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kindly fill the feedback form if you haven't, and then exit.
It's done, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Take care.